It all started quietly, too quietly for what it really meant. Just after dawn on that freezing December morning, when London still slept under a pale layer of frost, a single line appeared on Buckingham Palace's official website. No press conference, no royal carriage rolling up, no dramatic trumpet sounds, just one simple line tucked neatly beneath the rest, and yet, my goodness, it sent the entire kingdom spinning. Phones started buzzing, editors sat up straighter, and even the anchors on morning news shows suddenly had that drop everything look in their eyes. Because that single sentence, it wasn't just a formality. It was the palace finally breaking its silence about the two most speculated children in royal history, Archie and little Lilibet. For years, people whispered, speculated, invented stories, and passed around wild theories like candy. There were talks about secret baptisms, missing photos, hidden paperwork, oh, you name it. Some claimed the palace was hiding something. Others insisted Harry and Meghan were keeping the children out of sight for safety. And then, of course, there were the conspiracy corners, those channels and pages that turned every shadow into a scandal, every photograph into a sign. But that December morning changed everything. The frost still glimmered on the palace gates. The winter sun had barely climbed up. And yet, for the first time, Buckingham Palace spoke clearly directly about those children. Now, let me tell you, this wasn't some random update. Every word, every comma in that statement was deliberate, polished, and sharpened like a sword. Behind that calm, royal wording was years of tension. Tension between William and Catherine, Anne's blunt warnings, and Camilla's icy caution. It wasn't just about two children. It was about how the monarchy would survive in an age where rumors spread faster than royal invitations. See, the truth is, this story didn't begin with a website post. Oh no, it started years earlier with silence. When Archie was born, people expected the usual royal fanfare, hospital steps, smiling parents, the baby wrapped in white, waving to cameras. But instead, the Sussexes kept it private. No grand reveal, no hospital photo shoot, just a simple announcement, and then nothing. And when Lilibet was born in California, the pattern repeated. A small statement of joy, then complete silence. In a royal family that thrives on ritual and spectacle, that quietness was like striking a match in a dark room. It caught attention. It puzzled people. And in today's digital world, when something looks off, the internet fills in the blanks itself. And oh, did they fill them in? Every missing photo became proof of a secret. Every silence turned into evidence. People analyzed lighting, compared ears and noses, drew timelines like detectives. The internet turned into one giant royal investigation board. Inside the palace, though, it wasn't amusement, it was alarm. Charles, newly burdened with kingship, believed in old-fashioned silence. Dignity through restraint, he said. But William? He saw it coming long before anyone else. He knew what digital wildfire could do. And Catherine, she took it personally. To her, children, any children, should be off limits. The thought that Archie and Lilibet's names were being tossed around online like characters in a soap opera, it broke her heart. Anne, of course, didn't mince her words. She told Charles straight, if we don't define the truth, others will. And Camilla, well, she played the strategist. She worried that any statement might make things worse, feed the fire instead of quenching it. So they waited, and waited, until waiting turned into danger. Because silence might have worked in the past, but not in the age of social media storms. By early December, it was clear the rumors had gone too far. The first real warning came to William in a report from the palace's digital monitoring team. What began as fringe nonsense had ballooned into thousands of viral posts, bizarre investigations, and comment sections filled with outrage. Some of it even looked convincing edited timelines, carefully chosen photos, confident voices claiming the palace is hiding something. The scary part? It wasn't just young conspiracy hunters spreading it. The data showed most of it was coming from older audiences, the very people who had spent their lives trusting the monarchy. They were confused, suspicious, and hurt. They didn't understand why there were no photos, no ceremonies, no traditions. In their eyes, the silence looked like secrecy. Catherine realized it too. One evening, as she was reviewing charity papers, an aide brought her a stack of press cuttings. But this time, they weren't gossip columns. They were editorials asking serious questions about the children's royal status. Why hasn't the palace clarified? Why so secretive? The headlines carried an undertone of doubt that made her blood run cold. She saw the danger. What began as gossip had turned into a question of credibility. Anne saw it too. One evening, she marched straight into Charles's study and slapped a printout of a viral post on his desk. The fireplace crackled behind her as she said, "They're speaking of the children like theories, not people." Charles just stared at the page, realizing what they had done, or rather, what they had not done. Their silence had built a monster. But the final push didn't come from the press or from Anne's fiery warnings. It came from the palace staff themselves. During public events, aides began overhearing questions from the crowd. Ordinary people were asking things like, "Are Archie and Lilibet really recognized? Will they ever appear with the family? Do they have titles?" The questions weren't cruel, just curious. But curiosity, mixed with misinformation, becomes poison. William read the internal report and felt something shift inside him. "We've let this go too far," he said to Catherine that night, their conversation soft under the glow of the lamp. "They're just children," she whispered. "They shouldn't have to carry this." That was the moment the decision was made. The palace would speak finally. Meetings followed, private, tense, cold. Inside Buckingham's thick walls, the atmosphere was heavy with history and hesitation. The fireplaces burned, but the air stayed icy. Charles read fresh reports. Camilla rolled her eyes at each update, saying, "The more we feed this, the more it grows." But even she couldn't ignore it anymore. Headlines now claimed the palace was complicit, that their silence was proof. International outlets even hinted the crown had doubts about Archie and Lilibet's legitimacy. That was the breaking point. When the crisis meeting finally happened at Windsor, the scene could have been out of a royal drama. Charles sat at the head, weary but firm. William looked determined, Catherine poised, yet passionate. Anne crossed her arms, ready to argue. Camilla, last to arrive, gave everyone that calculating glance that could slice through steel. Charles opened softly. "We face a problem not of guilt, but of misunderstanding." Catherine leaned forward, voice steady. "Then let's fix the misunderstanding." Camilla countered instantly. "We can't respond to every rumor. It makes us look fragile." William shot back. "This isn't every rumor. It's about protecting truth and children." Anne nodded. "Silence is no longer dignity, it's neglect." The argument went in circles, tradition versus modernity, caution versus compassion, until finally, Charles raised his hand. "Prepare the statement," he said. And with that, history turned a page. Night fell like a velvet curtain over London, and the palace stood glowing faintly under the amber lights of its gates. The world had no idea that behind those ancient walls, the royal family was about to drop a statement that would silence millions of voices, at least for a moment. Everything was timed perfectly. It was scheduled for just after dusk, so it would dominate both the late-night headlines in Britain and the mid-afternoon talk shows in America. Oh, the calculation behind it. They knew exactly how global this storm had become, and they were ready to face it head-on. Inside the palace, the tension was thick enough to slice with a knife. Staff scurried through the halls, whispering updates. Advisors double-checked punctuation, commas, even capital letters, because one wrong word could fuel another week of chaos. Charles reviewed the draft in silence, the glow from the lamp catching the lines of fatigue on his face. Catherine read it too, her heart thudding with quiet relief. It wasn't defensive, it wasn't emotional, it was just clear. Finally, the truth was being spoken plainly. When the alert went live, it was like the world froze for half a second. Phones buzzed everywhere. News anchors cut mid-sentence to announce, "Breaking news from Buckingham Palace." The statement confirmed firmly and gracefully that Archie and Lilibet were legitimate members of the royal family, fully recognized, fully protected by the crown. It reminded the public, ever so gently, that children, especially royal ones, deserve protection, not persecution. Simple, elegant, devastatingly powerful. Within minutes, the media went wild. Cameras turned toward Buckingham's gilded gates, reporters gathered under umbrellas as the mist thickened and the glow of flashlights shimmered across the frost. Broadcasters who had spent months analyzing theories now stumbled over their words, trying to catch up. For once, the palace had stolen back the narrative, and oh, it shook the world. Some commentators called it long overdue. Others said it was unlike anything the palace had ever done before. And the people? My dear, the people reacted with a mixture of shock, shame, and awe. The older audience, those who had unknowingly believed the twisted online gossip, felt a wave of relief wash over them. Many admitted they had doubted too easily, filling silence with suspicion. It wasn't anger anymore. It was a sigh like the kingdom itself exhaled after holding its breath for years. Across the ocean, in California, Harry and Meghan were reading the same words. The statement wasn't an apology, not even close, but it carried something they hadn't expected: acknowledgement. For years, their children's place in the royal story had been left vague, hanging in limbo. Now, for the first time, it was written in royal ink for the world to see. Meghan felt tears gather in her eyes, tears of quiet vindication. "Finally," she whispered, "they're not ghosts anymore." Harry stood beside her, nodding slowly. Whatever pain had built between him and his family, this at least brought a sliver of peace. By the next morning, every newspaper from London to Los Angeles carried the story. Some headlines read, "Palace ends years of speculation." Others, "The royal children finally acknowledged." The narrative had changed overnight. And oh, the irony, after years of silence, all it took was one firm paragraph to end the chaos. Even the harshest critics of the monarchy had to admit, this was one of the most transparent human moves the crown had made in decades. But inside the palace, emotions were still swirling. William felt calm but restless, tracking not just the news but the sentiment, the shift in how people were talking. For the first time in years, he saw positive engagement from audiences that had grown cynical. Older viewers, especially, were writing comments like, "It's about time the palace spoke up." He realized this wasn't only about the children, it was about rebuilding trust. Catherine's emotions ran deeper. She wasn't thinking of headlines or metrics. She was thinking of two little ones, Archie and Lilibet, whose names had been tossed around like tokens in a public game. The thought that they could one day grow up and find all that nonsense online made her heart twist. "At least now," she told William quietly, "they'll see someone tried to protect them." Anne didn't linger on emotions. "Necessary. Overdue. Done," she told her aides the next morning. For her, the message was simple. This was the monarchy doing what it should have done months ago. She respected William and Catherine more for standing their ground. To Anne, this was not bowing to pressure, it was restoring order. Camilla, however, couldn't shake the unease. The media narrative had already started painting her as the cautious one, the voice of resistance. It wasn't entirely fair, but fairness had never been the press's currency. She knew what that shadow felt like. It clung, it whispered, and she felt it curling around her name once again. By evening, the palace was wrapped in silence, the kind that comes not from peace, but from the eye of a storm. The world outside had quieted, yes, but everyone inside knew this was just the beginning of a new kind of royal reality. They had stepped into an era where one tweet could spark a crisis and one rumor could rewrite perception overnight. And yet, something about that silence felt right. The monarchy had spoken clearly. Finally. Not for itself, not for image, but for its children. For two little souls who didn't ask to be part of history, yet were born into its brightest, harshest light. That winter night, as snow drifted over London, the palace stood steadier than before. The golden gates gleamed, the city lights shimmered on frozen pavements, and somewhere far away, two young children slept peacefully, oblivious to the storm their names had calmed. For once, the royal story ended not with scandal or spectacle, but with something far rarer in that world: truth. Because sometimes silence isn't grace. Sometimes it's the absence of courage. And that night, the palace finally found its voice.